Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So guys, I hope everyone is doing okay today. I've just had two great interviews, one with Lisa McCormick. She's running for the state, she's running for Senate in New Jersey, the dubious state of New Jersey, we can call it that. And one with Jordan Sheridan, who gave disturbing news about things that are taking place in Flint, meaning for the most part they're ignoring the fact that they have a water issue and they're using somewhat of a shady way. Or at the very least, the scientist himself has said that what they're using, his research, has holes in it, and that ultimately these people have they have incentives in order to get this over with and sweep this under the rug. And for all intents and purposes, that's what they're trying to do. So that story aggravated me and made me angry. The story with Lisa McCormick gave me hope because she seems to be earnest and seems to actually be out trying to make a difference for the people in New Jersey. So that was earlier today. Tomorrow I'm going to be on with Ron Picone. I'm checking my mic. Give me 1 second. I'm going to be on with Ron Picone. Ron has a show on YouTube. I forget the name of it. It's he goes through news articles at the moment, meaning it's like media in the very moment itself, and he gives his take on it. I would say search for Ron Picone should bring that show up. Jamal's going up against TYT. That's funny. Oh, TYT is on. I didn't know TYT was on. All right, nevertheless, so Ron Picone, I'm going to be on his show tomorrow, and also Jimmy Dore tomorrow. Jimmy fucking Dore will be on the show tomorrow. Let's see, it's 11:30, 12:30, 1 to 2:30. I think it's 3:30, but let me confirm. Yeah, 2:30 Eastern. So Jimmy Dore will be live on the Soapbox, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. That is going to be an amazing show. You have no idea how hyped up I am about that. One of the things that this show has allowed me to do, one of the awesome privileges, has been to just talk to people. Like there are certain people who have either changed my point of view, who have and what I mean point of view, I mean workable point of view, meaning the way you look at the world and how you're. Think about it for the moment that if you could craft a character, let's say in a video game, and that character has a certain organization of energy that is in physical matter reality is expressed as a point of view, the way they weigh things in the world. I think this is good, I think this is bad, I think when this happens XYZ should happen, I think this is fair, I think this is not. The point of view, their workable point of view, how they go against the world, not on a very specific issue, meaning not so fine-tuned that it's one particular thing. I think that issue is bad. No, more so a totality in the way that you go about your affairs in a normal way. That's what I mean by workable point of view. It altered the programming, not just your point of view of a particular thing. It altered the programming itself. The show, in an odd way, has allowed me to, this as a vehicle, to talk to people that have done that. Now, you know, Howard Zinn is no longer here. Noam Chomsky blew me off. Fair enough. Richard Wolff, however, was a success. Jimmy Dore hasn't necessarily changed my workable point of view. What I respect him for, and the thing that I give him all the credit in the world for. During the 2016 election, he was on a main platform, and I know this is a versions. I'm sorry. He was on a platform that was essentially a democratic platform, sheepdog into a Democratic Party. It allows an expression of anger and rage and being pissed off and everything else, but at the end of the day, that shifts and say, go into the Democratic Party. Whether they're doing that by purpose, whether they're doing that just kind of virtue of the incentives in the system itself that they're so terrified of Republicans. Either way, anger, rage, get it off your chest. You're angry. Yes, I'm angry. All right. Now I need you to go out there and vote for Hillary Clinton. Rebel headquarters. We lay down our weapons. He said no. Like, with all the political pressure in the world, he said no. I gained a certain amount of respect to him for that. Like, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. The guy who's ahead of your company is pushing for a particular candidate, and he said no. This is a political context. It's not like you're working at a diaper factory and Bob decides to vote for Hillary and the other guy decides to vote for your son. They are working in a political company that is a media organization that gets out and talks. Whatever they say is going to be expressed to the larger world. And he said no. I give him a lot of credit for that. Imagine the shit that he had to take from all these Hillary supporters. A video was sent to me from C-SPAN. What is the gentleman's name? Adrian Lay. With Jeff Weaver essentially answering questions from audience. And you should hear the Hillary supporters. Oh, Lord, you should hear the Hillary supporters. I'm going to do a video just on the Hillary supporters by themselves. They're maniacs. Those people have lost their goddamn minds. They honestly believe that breaking democracy is better. I'm saying it wrong. They honestly believe that breaking democracy is perfectly okay if that means getting their person in office. Meaning, fuck what the public wants. Fuck representative government. Fuck democracy. I want Hillary Clinton to be president. There was one maniac that came on and said, I'm voting for Donald Trump because I want to punish the world because Hillary Clinton didn't get elected. I'm paraphrasing, but that's literally what he said. I am voting for Donald Trump and it's going to hurt the public extensively. However, I am a Democrat, but I am angry that Hillary Clinton didn't get elected and that goddamn Obama, yes, he went back to Obama, shouldn't have ran against her either. She paid her dues. As if somehow paying your dues, whatever the hell that means, is equivalent to you get to run roughshod over what the public wants. These people are maniacs. These people are utter maniacs. Can't believe. And Jeff Weaver, knowing goddamn well that Bernie Sanders is running again in 2020, or at the very least is going to push somebody to run, but at the very least is very well thinking about it. Multiple sources have made that point clear. Has to deal with the shit that these idiots are saying because he doesn't want to necessarily alienate the Democratic establishment. So, not to mention, there was one other guy that called himself a Democrat and said Bernie Sanders voted against the veterans bill, so, you know, that should eliminate Bernie Sanders from the vote. Every veteran in the world needs to know that Bernie Sanders voted for that bill. Here's the thing. Bernie Sanders and John McCain had pushed a magnificent bill for veterans. The issue that Bernie Sanders, and when I heard that, I thought to myself, do you care about the reason that he voted against the bill? Just because they added veterans in the goddamn title doesn't necessarily mean it was for veterans. I mean, come on. These people are maniacs. They were trying to privatize the VA. That's what it boiled down to. Jeff Weaver explained it. Sometimes I wonder if that person who called wasn't just a random Democrat, but was somebody who knew Jeff Weaver was going to be on this show and who was trying to hit Sanders in the knees, that was pushed for this as a political operative. It would be crazy if they weren't. I have to be honest. If it was me, if I was running a campaign and I saw my opponent on the show, I would have people call in that would hit him in the knees repeatedly. So, yes, I'm an asshole, but the goal is to get elected, and it's politics, and all of that is fair game. I think it's worse if that's just a maniac and a Hillary Clinton supporter and a random supporter. Jeff Weaver answered the question magnificently well, however. So, good job on Jeff. Beyond that, the thing I want to talk about today is to jump across the pond. Let's jump across the pond. I've been working on my British accent. Jump across the pond. Rees Mogg. Rees Mogg. Now, Rees Mogg is a guy that looks like he should be wearing a monocle. And he talks as if he should be wearing a monocle. Rees Mogg is a Brexiteer. He is a Brexiteer's Brexiteer. Let's get on with it. Rees Mogg. The interesting thing is, I've looked at Brexit, and I don't really have. I would say I'm an objective observer, to the degree that somebody can be objective. I'm not in Britain, so I'm not directly affected and impacted by this, even though I like Britain. I have this weird fascination with Britain. I like the country. People can be pricks sometimes, but I love the country nonetheless. Don't ask me why. I have to acknowledge that I have concerns. The Northern Ireland thing is a concern for me. And even this idea of how you're going to come in some kind of contract with the EU is a concern to me. I don't think this is something where this is necessarily the easiest of waters to navigate, nor do I think it is without consequence when these waters are being navigated. Like, it's easy to say, look, I'm one of those people who say you can't have a second referendum. You had one. The public voted. Even if the public didn't know what it voted for, you can't go back on the referendum. Get on with it. The problem is you can't really get on with it because some of these problems don't have a straightforward answer or a straightforward solution. The EU said that Britain is kind of shuffling its feet because Britain doesn't have an answer. I mean, you have this weird situation with Northern Ireland and Ireland not wanting to create a border between those two things, and in trying to do that breaks the Good Friday Agreement. So the government comes up with systems that have never been invented, never been used, saying that that's going to be our solution. Well, nobody knows how that is. Rees Mogg is one of those people who says that all of these naysayers, all of these people with concerns, these people are just throwing in the wind. All of those people who said that there's a Titanic in front of them, and Rees Mogg adjusts his monocle. You guys are naysayers. That's not a that's not an iceberg. That's fairy dust. And when you go into that fairy dust, there will be unicorns, and there will be gold plates awarded to everyone, and there will be butter and peanut butter in each of their rooms, and the world will be a lovely place. That's what's ahead of us, not an iceberg. And the naysayers say you're lost your fucking mind. One of those naysayers that's saying Rees Mogg has lost his fucking mind gets a hold of Rees Mogg, and he calls him, and he presents Rees Mogg with a brutal reality that Rees Mogg would choose not to envision and not to deal with. But he persistently and at some point angrily gets across to Rees Mogg that he doesn't know what he's talking about, and this idea that there are not going to be major consequences, especially from the standpoint of business interests, is fanciful. It's nonsense. Well, what did George Galloway say? Nonsense on stilts. I'm going to steal it. Nonsense on stilts. There are real consequences. The EU is going to have you bent over a desk. Your little country and your economy is to some degree not going to be able to create all of these deals in this way, and any association with the EU means you're going to have to go by their rule set. But nevertheless, I understand why people want to leave the EU. There are two sets. Some with this idea of immigration, and yeah, immigration was used in order to get these people to do it. But some from the left. The argument from the left is interesting, and I'm going to. I know this video is going 13 minutes, and I'll cut it for people when they see it. How do you, if Jeremy Corbyn got elected, how do you initiate a left-wing policy or a left-wing plan when you have the German government, the conservative German government, that is going to put screws to you to stop you from doing that? When they saw Greece and the way that the government made Greece scream in that way, a referendum of people, meaning that country, the entirety of that country, comes out in a magnificent referendum and a show of defiance and says no to the EU. And the EU puts the screws to them. And within a day, that country is screaming. You had a hierarchical body crush a democratic government. That's what it boiled down to. A lefty, especially, and that was the Syriza government, a left-wing government. So how is a left-wing government in Britain going to fare any better? The argument of the left, from the standpoint of leaving, is fundamentally that. If you want to be able to put through a plan, a left-wing plan, you can't do it within the confines of the EU. I don't care about the right-wing plan, their reason. I care about the left reason. Look, either way, I don't care. Leave, stay, I don't care. If that's true, where they can't put their plan without leaving, fair enough. I probably lean towards that side. And yes, Europe has been making certain reforms. I've read that will be implemented by 2018, dealing with this thing of immigration and everything else. But at this point, it's too late. Soros, literally the boogeyman in the light of Lefty's dreams, is literally putting money into having a second referendum to try to get the country to vote again. He's not in Britain. No, he needs to mind his own fucking business. I don't understand why these rich fucks don't just go away and die happy with some woman who's, you know, of low regard, that's willing to sell herself for that money. But nevertheless, let's get back to Rees Mogg. Rees Mogg, again, monocle, gets hit with reality. Let's take a look at it. This is a radio show in Britain that I like. And let's make sure. Oh, okay. It's still set up for yesterday. That's all right. There we go. All right. Hope everyone can hear this.
What are you going to say? Good morning.
Morning, Nick. Morning, Joe. Good morning, Joe. Morning. As a business owner of a small European express courier company, will the express transport industry survive outside the customs union and single market when we become a third country?
It would be very surprising if it didn't, that there are express deliveries between Switzerland and the European Union, and Switzerland remains a third country. That I think there are a lot of scare stories around how business will operate, but you can get express deliveries from the UK to the United States, that it is perfectly possible to implement and work through customs procedures in a highly efficient and streamlined way. But there will be some changes, because we will not be in the customs union and we will not be in the single market.
Response from you, Kieran?
Right. If I can give you some hands-on experience of where I've been to every border and country in Europe. I've done a job to Switzerland before. I've exported £100,000 worth of exhibition equipment for a medical company from Cambridge. I got sent down what was called a Route 1 at Customs House in Dover. I was there for 7 hours. I then got to the Swiss border. I was there for 5 hours, and I missed the first day of the exhibition. They had to pay a 20% down payment on their temporary imports for their machines that they wanted to exhibit. They missed the first day. It cost them about £10,000, and they were deeply, deeply unhappy. This is not a frictionless border. The Swiss border is not frictionless. You have to stop. You have to go out of your van or your vehicle in your truck. You have to go up four flights of stairs to find your customs agent. You have to get your T1 or T2 forms processed, or your carnet, depending on what you're doing. Then you have to get them stamped by the French, the Swiss, then you can come in. The same applies to Customs House in Dover. There's no infrastructure there. There's no parking. At the moment, you can go there at the right time. You might be in and out in 30, 40 minutes. But when everybody has to clear their customs papers, it will be an absolute nightmare. I just want to know how you can respond to that.
Jacob.
Understand what's just taken place. Rees Mogg has brought up Switzerland as an example, and I think it was another country that he brought up as a potential example for this idea of a frictionless border. Fair enough. Now, the guy who he's talking to says, well, no, I have a transport company, and in my capacity of a transport company, I've gone to all of these places that you're saying is a frictionless border, and it is nonsense. It's nonsense. You have to spend X number of hours in this border. This particular place that you said before, that's an example, has no architecture for what you're talking about. I've spent hours at these places, and he makes the point of saying the person had to pay extra money because they couldn't get to the whatever they were going to in time because of the border, and said that they were deeply, deeply unhappy. I'm going to start using that. Deeply, deeply unhappy. I love the way Brits say things. But nevertheless, how is Rees Mogg going to respond to this? I consider this to be reality. Rees Mogg is living in an alternate reality of sorts. He's thinking this is going to be rainbows and unicorns. Now, Rees Mogg has his own interest in this. I don't know what that interest is. I have no idea Rees Mogg's motivation in this. Rees Mogg isn't a conservative, so I would imagine that revolves around him getting rich or his cronies getting rich in some way. But nevertheless, he's been hit with reality. Utter, complete, absolute reality. How does a man who's living in an alternate reality answer actual reality? Let's hear Rees Mogg make his case to this man who's in the travel industry and has gone from pillar to post, including the places that Rees Mogg himself says are examples of this kind of frictionless border that he has in mind?
Rees Mogg.
Well, it's a question of having the right infrastructure in place and the systems that deal with this. That if you look at the imports and exports via Southampton to the rest of the world, these are hugely efficient and streamlined because that's what they're focused on. The issue with Dover is it's not primarily focused on non-EU movements at the moment. Once we're outside the EU, Dover will have to become a streamlined port. Otherwise, they'll find that they lose business to other ports.
Won't we suffer the problems we have that gentleman suffered in Switzerland? Why would Switzerland have been at it for years?
Did you hear what he just said? He essentially acknowledges that what that guy said was right. His argument here is, well, they would have to streamline. I mean, they would have to. I mean, otherwise they'd lose business. Their business incentive would force them to do something. But at the very least, the very answer, in the very way that he answered, admits that it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Let's keep going. He's going to ask him about the Swiss. This is also another good one.
And they clearly haven't done very well with it. At least is what I take from what Kieran's telling us.
Kieran is telling us about an incident where he had a particularly difficult time getting
That's not
through
the only
Switzerland.
difficult time I've had.
No, I appreciate that. I wasn't trying to minimise it. But the Swiss-EU border is most of the time a very efficient border with very limited delays, as is the Norway-Sweden border. Norway being...
border is much smaller than the UK border. You can go via Gothenburg into Norway and clear customs there at a physical hard border checkpoint. You go from Hirtshals to Larvik and clear at the port in Larvik. It's tiny.
There are checks indeed between Norway and Sweden because Norway is in the single market but not in the customs union. But the border is an efficient border that you can have, and there are many efficient borders globally. And that is what we should be trying to do. That's what government policy is, to have as seamless as possible. But there will be some changes, of course.
I'll let you make...
There we go. Now that's the honesty. That's the honesty. You're confronted with reality. And this guy is saying, no, it's not the only time I've had a hard time going through the Swiss border. Because he's tried to, make this point of, well, I mean, usually it's efficient. No. I've had difficulty going through this border before. It's not what you're telling the people that it is. You're a Brexiteer and you're pushing this Brexit nonsense like it's a soft drink, telling everybody that they're going to be parties the moment that you pop the top. And this guy is saying, no, this drink is full of sugar and syrup, and people are not going to be dancing. They're going to be getting fucking diabetes. Rees Mogg sticking to the thing. Well, I mean, Norway. These are efficient borders, but there will be changes. First, that depends on what you mean by efficient, and it depends on what you mean by changes. Those words are yada-yadaing a lot that Rees Mogg cannot necessarily explain other than saying efficient border. If you notice, this guy has been very specific when he's talking about the border situations, and he sounds like he's somewhat annoyed by the Brexit thing because it seems like they're minimizing these particular issues. I love this. Rees Mogg, not wearing his monocle today, he should, getting confronted with reality, and at the very least has to admit and move from his position. There will be changes. There will be things that we would need to accommodate, but it will be efficient, whatever the hell that means. Let's keep going. The guy even makes a point. That's a hard border when he brings up Oz, like Norway, and it was another country. He's like, one of those is a hard border, and the other ones, either way, they're much smaller than Britain's border. It doesn't apply to us. Let's keep going. I love this interview because Rees Mogg is getting his ass handed to him here.
Make your final point, Kieran, because there are... So this will be your final observation, but make a final point to Jacob Rees Mogg. Kieran?
There's not one single white paper that the government has yet produced on road transport apart from permits for trailers, including caravans and private trailers over 750 kilos. Everybody would be affected. Driving licences would be affected. And they're also saying, according to the European Union white paper, it says you'll need a transport manager that must be a resident in an EU country and you must have a premises. This is going to put small to medium-sized businesses out of business overnight. We won't be able to compete, and all you're going to have is the large companies running it. I'll tell you something. One last thing from me. I transport exhibitions. I transport car parts for the just-in-time production line. I transport AOG airport on ground parts. I do band work for concerts. They cannot go by truck. They must go by van. They rely on the smooth and frictionless transport over borders from Dover to Calais,
I've got-
where you do not stop to clear customs.
All
There's
right.
nowhere to stop, and it'd be an absolute disaster when it does.
All right, I have to finish there. Final rejoinder from you.
Well, there will be a white paper. There is a bill on transport going through the House of Commons at the moment, and the issue with driving licence is one at the forefront of the Department of Transport's mind already, and they have a solution in sight. So I think the fears are being overstated.
Kieran, do stay in touch. Thank you. Please understand, you have had a long crack of the whip. We move on. Let's go to the...
I think your fears are overstated. It's nice to be where you are at that high level with that monocle, looking down, completely detached from the things that are taking place. As you look down with the glass separating you and the other person, you say, I think what you're saying is a bit overstated. Rees Mogg, ladies and gentlemen. Rees Mogg. He says you've had a large crack at the whip. Yeah, elephants on coke. You caught that. He said you've had a long crack at the whip. It's like, well, that's what it was. It was a crack of the whip. He went after him. There will be a price to pay for leaving, but it's worth it. Meanwhile, May and company are delaying required Brexit conditions because they don't have an answer, guard. They don't have an answer. They don't know. What is the Irish border? How are you going to handle that? How are you going to handle it? How are you going to handle it in a way that doesn't break the Good Friday Agreement? How are you going to handle it without a border? Now, Rees Mogg is saying those concerns are overstated. There'll be changes, but those changes aren't going to be a big deal. Rees Mogg is saying that because he is unaffected by those changes. That guy who called him will be affected by those changes and made the point that you're going to put us out of business. You're going to put small mom and pop shops out of business. And Rees Mogg, I think that stuff is overstated, man. I think that stuff is overstated. Laura Glennie, it's good to be king. I'm sorry. It's good to be king. He had an exclamation point behind it. Yes, it really is. Or at the very least, some plutocrat that's so far above it all that you're untouched by the decisions that are being made. Think about that. I mean, the guy had a certain amount of desperation in his voice because he seemed to honestly believe that what they're doing is going to kill his business. And Rees Mogg is like, it's overstated. Is it overstated, Rees? Or are you just so far for the Brexit thing that you're not paying attention to the actual consequences of Brexit? What are you saying? The guy's giving explicit detail because he's been in this business. He's been in all of the borders that Rees is talking about. Rees knows goddamn well that Rees has not been to each and every one of those borders from the standpoint of the capacity of a business. That guy has. And that guy is giving him specifics of some of the consequences that may take place with Brexit. And Rees Mogg, there's nothing to see here, sir. It's amazing. Peter version 1. Ron Paclone, tell him get Jimmy. Jimmy is coming on tomorrow. Fuck the status quo. Please read the last sentence. It's good to be king. I didn't see the last sentence, Peter. Keep in mind when I'm doing this, I don't see it while I'm doing the show. I see these after the fact. He's probably dumbfounded. Rees Mogg has never had any trouble. Lawrence, he had trouble on that one. He had trouble on that one. That guy would. And what I love about it is the guy asks him an introductory question. And it's, when I'm having a debate with somebody, oftentimes I'm trying to understand what the person thinks. Meaning, what is the reality that's in your head? It's easier to kind of go after somebody's reality as opposed to defending on. What is the reality that's in your head? Rees Mogg tells it. And he says, great. And he just plows through it. Like, I love that. It's like, explain what you believe. This is what I believe. And now, just blow through it. And now, try to put back the pieces of what you say you believe. And which Rees, at the end of it all, I don't think it's that bad. I think you're overblowing this, buddy. That's fucking amazing. That is really amazing. Deeply unhappy. Deeply, Jim Hyden, deeply happy, old chum. At Fred Edwards, the progressive soapbox zone, da. What we're just told is some sort of exception. Harlan St. Clair, You see, it's all highly plausible, strong, and stable. Ryan for Prez. If government says it's sufficient, then surely it is. I know. If Rees Mogg says this from high altitude that Rees Mogg is sitting with his monocle, then it has to be so, because Rees Mogg would never tell us a fib. Rees Mogg would never tell us something that wasn't true. The reality is EU is a neoliberal model, and the UK citizens are correct to distance themselves from it. Yeah, it's interesting, but the right wing has a different idea. From the right wing's perspective, they don't like the rules, they don't like the regulations. Some of the EU policies are, from our standpoint, progressive. The EU or the UK, many of these guys, this guy included, is a right winger. They love for the opportunity to gut regulations and to gut some of the services that the EU mandates that the people provide from the standpoint of businesses. They want to cut regulations. That's what they want to get away from the EU for. This has nothing to do with the best of interests of the British citizens. They want to cut regulations. They love it. Now, the left wing has its own reasons for doing it, meaning this thing of separating yourself from that particular, like you said, neoliberal institution. But either way, this guy, Rees Mogg, is not looking out or cares no one iota for regular people. Once they leave the EU, British law is going to take effect over EU law. They are looking for the opportunity to cut British law in a way that would adversely affect British citizens, however, advantage others, meaning advantage corporations over the public itself. Whatever you want to think of the EU, there are certain rules and regulations that the Tories, conservatives, don't particularly like. They think it's restrictive. So Rees Mogg is in this not because he cares about the British citizen, not because he cares about Britain, but purely because he cares about his ilk, the monocle types. That's why. That's the only reason why. I hope the British public doesn't look at Rees Mogg and think that he's somehow fighting for Britain. He's not. He's fighting for himself and his cronies. What the guy was saying was right. What he was saying was right. I don't have one way or the other feelings about Brexit, but if I heard that, that would give me some pause, at least. I mean, Rees Mogg just looked at this and said, your feelings are overblown, buddy. The feelings are overblown. Norway and Sweden are also both members of the Nordic Council. It's a different kind of border than any theoretical border the UK will have with the UK. The conditions that Rees Mogg is talking about doesn't exist. This border, this high-tech sci-fi border, doesn't exist. It doesn't exist at all. They're acting like this thing is going to be some kind of thing. I mean, it's one thing if you had an example where you could say, okay, this is what this is going to look like. Rees Mogg doesn't. He doesn't know. They don't know. They're making it up as they go along. Busy. EU has some good regulations, but it also a technocratic system that imposes the will of the elites. No. I understand. I agree with you. I'm making a point that there are some good regulations that are considered, we would consider progressive. The Tory party does not want to be held with those regulations at all. They would love to be able to cut those regulations. In fact is, when there's a handover, British law has taken effect over EU law. What are the Tories going to do when they get the opportunity to cut certain regulations? They're going to cut those regulations. That's what they want to do it for. That's the only... Those Brexiteers were not looking out for the best interests of Britain. They were using whatever they could use in order because they thought they were going to be able to advantage themselves. The catch here is the lefty parties have an opportunity. Will they take it? I mean, and I'm talking about Corbyn in this case. If Corbyn wins, Corbyn has an amazing opportunity, and he would not be under the thumb of Britain, under the EU. But Corbyn at this point is not in power. You have a Tory government that's in power. And I strongly suspect that they're going to cut regulations, especially those that are... They're going to cut regulations. They're going to advantage the people they are in politics for. 1%. So, nothing is 100% bad or good. But the EU is broken. Yeah, I agree. I mean, even the euro, even the euro. All of these countries, sovereign currency, meaning Britain is a sovereign currency. The other countries are under the thumb of the EU. They don't even make their own money. I mean, they can't even run a deficit if they need to overspend in order to kind of compensate for a bad economy or something to that effect. They can't even invest in their own infrastructure and all that other stuff because they can't necessarily do deficit spending. Part of the reason that that populist party in Italy, that's Eurosceptic, that won, well, a lot of this comes from the problems associated with the EU that the publics themselves don't like. And it's like, what do? Are you going to really force the people of those states or people of those countries to stay in the EU? If Britain leaves, if Italy leaves, oh God, if Italy leaves, the EU is done. It's done. I mean, those countries saw what they did to Greece. And that's what it boils down to. There was a political consequence from the standpoint of the EU that it didn't necessarily take into account. In the same way, there was a political consequence of cheating Sanders that the Democratic Party didn't take into account. Ill will. People being deeply, deeply unhappy. And what do people who are deeply, deeply unhappy do about the object of their unhappiness? There's going to be a percentage that get active. Not to mention, anytime that you need those people for your support, those people go away in the opposite direction. So yeah, you have a lot of countries who are unhappy about the EU. They're going to take it out on them. So yeah, the Tories' dream is to make Swiss local land, which is ridiculous, and the Germans in Frankfurt hope to become even more relevant with shifting financial center to Frankfurt from London. Oh, I see what you mean. They're trying to essentially grab the financial sector of London. I don't know. I gotta be honest. I have concerns about what's going to happen in Britain. I have concerns. I've seen some of the other research that came in talking about the hit to their economy and calling them the sick man of Europe, like the saying that they used to have it, saying that this was where they are now. Like the amount of growth that they had in their economy versus the amount of growth in some of the other economies. And a lot of these people are attributing it to Brexit because they don't necessarily know what the rules are going to be, what's going to happen. They're taking a hit. And this guy's acting like there's nothing to see. They're taking a hit. Even now, they're taking a hit. So, yeah. Anyone heard about the Swiss bank changing policy of such about fiat and who could print money? Only saw some headlines. I have not seen them. If Brexit does happen, the London financial sector will shrink drastically. I used to work for a financial company. After Brexit vote, they started moving people to Germany. 10/55. Wow, I did not know that. I did not know that. Wow. Yeah, it seems like they're going to take a hit. But, I mean, who do you believe? Rees Mogg and his monocle or your lying eyes? Who do you believe? Alright, guys. I will end this here. Guard Gnome. Again, maze delays are often intentional and not caused by confusion over policy. Fair enough. Fair enough. I would imagine they use whatever's in their political toolbox. I wouldn't put it past her. If there was some political effect that she can get out of it, then yeah. You know me, man. I look for incentives. If there's a political incentive for her to delay those things, then she delays those things. I don't know the leg that Britain has to stand on. And what I strongly suspect, is that in order to make Britain competitive against some of the EU and keep businesses and everything else, she's going to slash regulations and maybe even slash taxes with this idea of creating, like Jeremy Corbyn, a bargain basement discount factory to try to draw companies away from, or to keep companies in Britain, or at the very least draw companies from the EU. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't even think the Labour Party is going to allow that to take place. I think there will be major political consequences in Britain if she even tried to do something like that. So, I think that's a false choice, or at the very least a false threat. Which kind of brings me back to my other point. I think they're over a barrel. I don't know what Britain has in this case. Britain needs a deal with the EU. Britain in no way can make up the girth of the EU with places around the world. I don't see it happening. If you make any deals with the EU, you're going to have to play by the rules. Which means if you're going to trade any particular thing, you're going to have to play by the rules of the EU. This is not a la carte. I don't know how you solve that. And because I don't know how to solve that, I don't necessarily know what these guys are going to come up with. If May believes she can get some kind of political effect about delaying. Yeah, she probably would delay. I don't think you're wrong, Garden. I don't think you're wrong. Watch Election Watch 2017 by H. Bomber Guy. It's a super well done and in-depth look on Brexit and the rise of Corbyn. I also got on Soapbox Patron. Oh, Balthazar, thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it, my man. I mean, you're always here, and I appreciate it like nobody's business. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have a Patreon account. That's what he's talking about. When you hear me say, if you like the content, if you dig what I'm putting down, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course you can always support the Patreon. My Patreon information is at the bottom of the video. So, Balthazar, thank you very much. Alright guys, I'm going to end this one. Rees Mogg. Nothing to see here, folks. There's no problems up ahead. That iceberg is full of unicorns and is made of jello, and we're just going to hit it and it's just going to fly away. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Cede Northern Ireland to the Republic. Oh, Jim. Okay, I have to say, all right, fair enough. Let me explain this. So, part of the issue with the Northern Ireland thing is Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Northern Ireland is Britain. Republic of Ireland is Ireland. Now, Jim Hyden is making a point. Look, if you just give Northern Ireland to Ireland, no issue. The word is great. What that means, however, though, is you're giving Ireland to the EU. You're effectively giving Ireland to the European Union. I understand what you mean when you're saying give Ireland to Northern Ireland, but Northern Ireland at that point is just going to become part of the EU. I don't think Britain wants to give up its territory in this way. I feel you, though. I feel you. Can't wait for Get On Soapbox t-shirts. Balthazar, I told you once before, I think last month, that I wanted to give you a t-shirt. Oh, you might not have seen that. Okay. Balthazar, can you please send me an email? I would like to give you a t-shirt. When I was doing the t-shirt thing, I think last month I even said it. I said it in a video, but I don't think I actually told you. I don't have to get in contact with you per se. Jamal, I'm going to leave this here in 20-minute Thomas. My wife, they were laughing at me yesterday because they were laughing at me the other day because I did a video where I came back after the club. I went drinking with Kelly Ling, and I think I had like 3 mojitos. I forget the name of the drink she had, and you know, it's one of those things where it was an awesome drink. Like, the guy made the best fucking mojito I've ever had. I don't drink alcohol because my body doesn't tolerate it well, just from the medical stuff. I just don't tolerate it. I don't break down whatever that is to break down all that well. But that being said, I'm always lucid when I drink. I don't necessarily become sloppy drunk. So I came back to the hotel. I was like, all right, I'm going to just give my spiel on what I think of the day from the analysis of that part. And I'm just going to leave it. Maybe 15 minutes at the most, and I'll go to bed. I just nod off. And somewhere along the way, it was like, all right, this is going to be quick. And then it was like 2.5 hours later. And my mom was like, I saw that video. She says, I was in here laughing my ass off. And she was like, you mentioned this is not going to be long. And it was like 2 hours. And then somebody else, I think, look, they kind of made the point. It's like this winding thing that goes into like a rat jumping through the window in Nepal, India, like all sorts of just weird and odd and interesting things. Look, I like talking to my audience. I'm a chatterbox, and I don't necessarily get the chance to be a chatterbox in real life. It's only so much that people can take. So my channel tends to be my outlet in being a chatterbox, especially when I'm enjoying it. It's not necessarily work when I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing. So in that case, slightly buzzed, and enjoyed it, talking to my audience. In fact, I was even thinking of doing travel experiences for patrons. Now, the reason I say this is I always think, what can I get patrons? What can I get patrons? I don't like locking my shows because I like people to see the content. But it occurred to me that, what about the travel stuff? The travel stuff is not necessarily politics. I don't know. I think of what can I give my patrons outside of just a t-shirt. I think the t-shirts are ridiculous. Not ridiculous, but I think the t-shirts are, it's not enough. That's what I mean when I say ridiculous. Like it's not enough. You guys allow me to do my show, and I guess I'm somewhat grateful for it, and I often look for ways to, I guess, get across that grateful thing. And I understand people give because they like the content and everything else, but still, I still want to have, I guess, something a little bit more than content to get across to them how much I appreciate them, and I don't quite know what that is. Giving one t-shirt a month to somebody it's nice for one, but the rest. So, Elephants on Coke. Off topic. Thoughts on Peace and Freedom Party. They have candidates running in California, including Gail McLaughlin. They're more active than the Greens. Now, Gail McLaughlin is not running for Freedom and Peace Party, I didn't think. I thought she was running with, what is it called? It's Nick Bronner's thing. Independent Party or something. But either way, I like her. This edifice that we've built up of a two-party system needs to be broken. We would say a one-party system is horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. It's like a dictatorship. But two parties, oh no, that's perfectly okay. And then add to that the two parties get captured by cash, and we act as if we still have this kind of functioning democracy. That's nonsense. I mean, you have a predatory capital class that essentially instigated itself into our political system, and it's no different. There's a Star Trek episode where this creature buries its way into members of the Federation. And there's this disgusting scene where Jean-Luc Picard and Riker kind of become wind of this. They're on the planet, and you have all of these Starfleet officers that are infected with this stuff. And the one officer that's in charge has this thing like come out of his mouth or something, and Riker kind of shoots it. That's kind of what it's like. You have a democracy that has these nasty, disgusting parasites motivated with this kind of capitalistic drive of maximize your profit at the expense of the society. The governmental apparatus was supposed to be the check on power of the plutocratic class, as opposed to being the club. And I know that's a Pollyannish view of looking at government, but nevertheless, that's the way I look at government. What is the philosophical point? From the interests of the worker, the philosophical point is to keep areas of power in check, private interests. That is not what it is doing, and often it does the opposite of that. That needs to be broken. If Gail McLaughlin is running for something other than the Democratic and Republican Party, God bless. Also, Nick Bronner's team vouch for, and just because Nick Bronner vouch for it doesn't mean, bee's knees per se. But at the very least, I became aware of Gail because she was running as an independent and running under. I can't think of the name of their party. It's not Party for Sanders. They changed the name beyond that. I think it's Movement for People's Party. That's what it is. And she got the nomination from them. Like, she got the nod from them. Gail seems okay. I don't know a huge amount about her, but she seems okay. She's not a Democrat. She's not a Republican. And she seems to be further to the left in both. So, that's my thought. The workers are in serious trouble. I like the way that old Admiral kicked the shit out of Riker. yeah. God, I love my audience. You fucking Trekkies. Yeah, in that episode, he was, that thing that had burrowed in him had given him, like, super strength. And he beat the shit out of Riker. God, man, Gardner, you have no idea how much it thrills me that you knew that. No idea. Absolutely no idea. Alright, I'll end this here. I know I said I was going to end it 10 minutes ago, but goddamn it, I'm ending it here. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you guys can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone. Balthazar, I ran the 10K Mem Day. Oh, I ran the 10K Memorial Day. Was one race the DNC didn't rig. It was the one race they didn't rig. Well, they're rigging them all around the country, so lucky you, Balthazar. Lucky you. Alright, guys. You all have a good one. I don't think I'm going to have another one tonight. I probably will have one in the morning, though. So, yeah, well, wrong. I'm going to be on with Ron tomorrow. That's going to be 10 a.m. Pacific. 10 a.m. Pacific. 10, 1, 10, 11, 12, 1. So it's going to be 1 p.m. Eastern. If you want to check out the Ron Pacone show. And Dore is going to be here at 2:30. So, Jimmy fucking Dore. I'm excited. Alright, guys. You all have a good one. Don't hurt nobody. Give peace and love. You have a good night. Bye-bye.